There's always a twist at the end, and boy did this one deliver. Major spoilers for Dot and Bubble ahead. Where do I start with this one? My lord, that took a turn. Now, I'm obviously going to talk about the ending that is without a doubt the elephant in the room, but I'm going to go over a few of the things I loved about this episode first. I found Find Time and the whole Dot and Bubble social media experience to be quite a cool future concept. And honestly, with the way social media is going and the introduction of things like the Apple Vision Pro and VR headsets, I can honestly say this probably isn't that far-fetched. It was pretty funny realizing that the residents of Find Time were literally unable to walk in a straight line without the assistance of their bubble and arrows, which just shows how much they rely on their social media for real life. I loved how this was a commentary on social media and the way people are constantly glued to their phones. Whilst it was obviously an exaggerated version, I honestly don't think it was too far of a stretch. I thought the slugs were a really cool design, and the way they just ate people was pretty brutal, but also hilarious. And who knew they were actually the good guys of the episodes? Come on, slugs! When we found out that the slugs had taken over the homeworld and killed the entire population, it was initially a very sad and depressing realization, until, well, later on. We also saw the mysterious Susan Twist return yet again, and both the Doctor and Ruby recognise her this time, which means the puzzle is starting to come together. So let's get on to Lindy. Where do we start with this one? Now, throughout the episode, while she obviously comes across as a rich and spoiled brat, which is realistically what she is, we are made to root for her throughout the episode as she is the main focus, and the one the Doctor is trying to save. As a result of that, we do root for her despite her being somewhat irritating, especially when she was trying to navigate the slugs. Now, while she wasn't the most likeable protagonist ever, which was kind of the point when you think about it, you do still somewhat feel a bit sorry for her. That is, until she meets Ricky. Now, when we're first introduced to Ricky at the beginning of the episode, I thought he was just going to be another irritating social media influencer. How wrong I was. He was a much more layered and interesting character than we first realised, and he literally risked his life to save Lindy. He was also very Doctor-esque in his mannerisms and the way he was the hero saving the day, and I can't help but feel that may have been intentional. He did a great job of fending off the Dot when we realised it actually wanted to kill them, which, now we know what happens in the end, we can't blame it for. And then, our favourite protagonist, Lindy, stabs him in the back to save herself, which results in him getting killed. R.I.P. King. Gone, but never forgotten. It was at this point I knew something was up, because the protagonist of the episode has just acted very selfishly and got somebody else killed to save her own skin. And then we find out the people of Find Time are all racist. Yes, you heard me right. And when you think about it, the signs were there from early on. Now, I won't go into the full list right now, but there were a lot of signs throughout the episode that Lindy was in fact racist, starting off with the fact that she immediately blocked the Doctor and not Ruby. Lindy was also disgusted by the fact that the Doctor and Ruby were in the same room. Now, I initially thought this was just some kind of unwritten rule of Find Time that people with social media don't need to be in the same room, and that was just against the norm, but how wrong I was. And then it all came out at the end in one of the most heartbreaking scenes I think I've ever seen on television. Credit where credit's due, and Ncuti Gatwa acted his socks off here. My God, I was heartbroken. This is the first time the Doctor has ever experienced racism firsthand. He's always been able to walk into any room in the universe and immediately command the situation and save anybody he likes. But not this time, and it is terrible to watch. Even despite the blatant bigotry from the residents of Find Time, the Doctor is still willing to save every single one of them. And thanks to their hatred and outdated views, they all board the boat to the outside world where they face their inevitable and well-deserved deaths. Can't say I'm sorry to hear about that. It was just a truly heartbreaking way to end the episode because the Doctor, despite all his cleverness and abilities and willingness, could not save them because of their own views. He was literally powerless in this situation, and it was just terrible to see. Both Ncuti and Millie gave a cracking performance here, and I honestly think this is one of the most powerful scenes in the entire show. I've also got to give a massive shout out to actor Callie Cook here, who brought to life Lindy Pepper Bean. Now, whilst we all obviously hated the character, it just proves what a good job Callie did, and honestly, no hate should be directed toward the actor herself. She was just doing her job, and she did it brilliantly. My only main criticism with this episode, despite the slightly annoying protagonist, is the fact it was yet another Doctor-like episode, which marks 2 in a row. I personally already love Ncuti's Doctor. I think he's absolutely smashing it, so it is a bit of a shame to see him hardly appear in 2 of only an 8-episode series. Despite all this, I did really enjoy the episode. Yes, the protagonists were slightly annoying, but that scene at the end just elevated it so much higher for me. Overall, I'm probably going to rate Dot and Bubble an 8 out of 10. It probably would have been sitting at around a 6 if it hadn't been for that end scene, so that really boosted it for me. Let me know what you thought of the episode and what you'd rate it out of 10. Justice for Ricky.